So, as you know, our Sunday series this month has been A World That Works for Everyone. And today's topic is our global vision. When I was structuring this theme and the topics for this month, I chose today's topic for two reasons. The first reason was that it was important to me to be able to share with you, albeit by FaceTime, my own global vision unfolding as I traveled to a part of the world that I was totally unfamiliar with firsthand. And the second reason, because this phrase, our global vision, is a part of the organizational statement of our parent organization, Centers for Spiritual Living. And Centers for Spiritual Living truly is an international, that is to say, global presence in today's world. And I really wanted to share that with you today. So let me begin with this information regarding the global vision developed and supported by our Centers for Spiritual Living. First of all, the mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. The purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And the vision of our world organization is a world that works for everyone. So, sometimes in our own little corner of the world, and by our, I mean each of our individual spiritual centers, sometimes we forget that we are part of a global program to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Because, after all, that's the whole idea, isn't it? That we are willing and comfortable in sharing what we've learned in our own lives. Certainly, individually and collectively in our own communities, we're proceeding in that direction. But sometimes we forget that there are millions of us all over the world with that same purpose and that same vision as well. And millions yet to be made aware of this truth. The part of the world that I've been in the last 3 weeks is, namely Europe, has a rich legacy of its history and architecture, as I've mentioned to you before. And for me, the dichotomy of that was seeing the monuments and the cathedrals representing religion. Most of them Catholic, but not all of them. And the monuments, buildings, and walls around communities as a part of the warfare that was so much a part of the daily living of the people back in those days when those cathedrals were being built. Often these walled-off towns have as their central structure their own cathedral, around which the town has been built, and then the wall around the outside of the town. And this is still the case in the small rural towns in the Provence region in southern France, which is where I had an opportunity to visit them. Though not all of them are on the top of a hill with the church at the highest point, like I talked about last week, those communities surround their church or their cathedral, and then the wall surrounds them. So it's still an enclave with other structures around it as its protection. And if any of that sounds familiar to you, in the world today, this continues. Different settings, different cultures, perhaps a different message to protect, but it's still happening. Whatever other issues there are, real or contrived, for human beings to fight each other about, religion is somewhere in the mix, almost always. Interesting, isn't that? Interesting and sometimes disturbing. How many spiritual beings having a physical or a human experience expect to have their own religion of their choice, the freedom to have that religion of their choice, and then expect to be able to deny that privilege to everybody else. So much work we have yet to do for a world that works for everyone. Our Center for Spiritual Living's website has a section there on our concepts of global community. And I want to share some of that with you now. Its heading is titled Global Community, and the tagline under that reads, Earth is more than just a planet. It's home to a global community. Centers for Spiritual Living seeks to build and foster interconnectedness with all people on the planet.
Bluetooth pairing.
Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Underneath that is the statement. I'm going to read that again. Earth is more than a planet. It's home to a global community. Centers for Spiritual Living seeks to build and foster interconnectedness with all people on the planet. And beneath that is another statement which says we firmly believe in a global community. We honor all faith traditions and walks of life. We are working to manifest a world that works for all. We invite you to become a part of that vision and connect with others. Additionally, Centers for Spiritual Living makes available on its website materials for people all over the world to access. There are materials on translations of Ernest Holmes' writings and other New Thought writings, writers and writings in several other languages. There are lists of groups of people groups throughout the world where one can find others with whom to communicate and celebrate the positive aspects of humankind. There's also a section which is titled Partnerships, and Centers for Spiritual Living is proud to be a part of a growing network of organizations that are also working toward global transformation, including the Association for Global New Thought and the Bishop Yvette Flunder Fellowship for Affirming Ministries. So these kinds of things, when you go online, you can find them by the dozens. It's a tribute to the fact that there is a lot of work going at the level of global community interaction and discussion. It's all about co-creation. It's all about collaboration. And this is the way to multiply the success of all. And as another resource, each month our international spiritual leader, Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon, and some of you know him, from the Center for Spiritual Living in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, selects a theme to provide resources for ministers in a variety of subjects. Now, you might think what I'm about to tell you is a coincidence. I prefer to consider it a normacle, and you're all familiar with that word, normacle. Dr. Ken's theme for October is Love as Safety. And the first week's information is about a world that works for everyone. And it's entitled, We Belong to Each Other. Now, the seeming coincidence of that to me is that I selected our theme for September and its topics in late August. And Dr. Ken's email came on September 26. So that said to me that in the one mind, no matter when it shows up and by means of whom, there is correlation. And I really appreciated that. I don't ever remember being ahead of Dr. Ken on anything, but this time, yeah, we did it in September and they're doing it in October. So Spirit, by means of me and him, and our minister, Reverend Jay Lang, who is at the Napa, California Center for Spiritual Living, and who provided input to this YouTube recording that Dr. Ken did on We Belong to Each Other. Well, we were all in sync for this talk, for my talks, for the concept of a world that works for everyone, long before the three of us put it into form to bring to you today. It's miraculous, but it's enormical. It's one mind, it's one heart, it's one love. So I want to share with you some excerpts from Reverend Lang's material on that YouTube recording. He said there's really only one thing happening, and that is our own individual reflection is what goes out to the entire world. There is really only one thing happening, and that is that my individual opinions and beliefs, your individual opinions and beliefs, are what each of us is sending into the world. So when I look at the world, myself, my world, my government, my culture, my life, when I look at the world, what I am seeing, evaluating, and hearing, and doing all comes from who I am in that moment. Dr. Holmes said it this way: we're happy when life flows through us in creative life expression. And that cannot happen while we judge ourselves or others. He reminds us not to be confused over or by any turbulence around or outside of us. He says, choose not to be confused or overwhelmed by it. Stay within your perfectly created self. So, one of the oldest and still current reminders is to do unto others. And Dr. Holmes adds to that, first, as you would have them do unto you. Let tolerance, kindness, sympathy, understanding, and compassion go before you. Which means beginning by showing self-love, compassion, understanding, and by treating yourself with respect, you can want it for others and from others. Well, this brings us to the end of this September journey of exploring a world that works for others in a variety of ways that I'd like to kind of share with you now. It's been a lengthy one. For me, it's been about 15,000 miles of travel getting to and from France, and another 2,000 or more traveling around France by bus and by train as opposed to by car. A whole different experience for me. And coming back into the U.S. at JFK Airport on Friday, and it seemed like another 2,000 miles, this time on foot, to pick up my luggage, my checked luggage, to go through customs, to recheck the luggage, to go through security, and then return to my departure gate in the same terminal corridor as the one that I came into when we landed there 2+ hours before. And actually, I talked with someone who worked there in that, and we were still in one terminal. And she said, yeah, you could have put on 3 miles in the process of walking through that. That was me and about 10,000 other people, as a matter of fact. So this has also been a 5-Sunday month, which means we spent an extended length of time on one theme with topics that look at it from 5 different sources. It's certainly been lengthy for Gail, for Tamara, and for Arliss, as they've stepped into a lot of behind-the-scenes work as well as the Sunday services for 5 weekends. So I just want to say to the three of you, you have my deepest and utmost love and appreciation for all this work and dedication that you've done in order to make this work. From my side, it looks seamless. Don't tell me until I get home all the times it wasn't. And I trust for each of you, the three of you and those of you who are with them there today, that the journey of reflecting on a world that works for everyone has expanded and enriched your path through this experience we call life, and through the way we've done it this month. Remember always to love and cherish yourself. And in the words of Dr. Ken Gordon, know that you are honored. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Virginia.
You are very welcome, and thank those of you stalwarts who have hung in all this month and participated in this. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun for me. While I'm looking forward to being much more comfortable in that room next Sunday than where all the places I've been doing this for the last 5 weeks, it really has opened my eyes to a lot of possibilities of the way that we can share our message of this philosophy with even more people than we are already.